Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jax Beach. And today I want to present a topic called Life is Complex. I want to talk about three things in life that can become overwhelming, that are quite complex. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to simplify them. So I'm going to discuss three relationships that you have with you today, and then how to deal with them. And the first is your relationship with yourself. The second is your relationship with others. And the third is your relationship with the universe. So first, we'll look at your relationship with yourself. And we're going to talk about two different things. We're going to talk about psychology, and we're going to talk about microbiology. Both very, very important. Psychology, microbiology. Psychology is brain related. Everything is brain related in your body because it's all controlled by the brain, but it's mind related. And then microbiology is related to the outside of your body and the inside of your body, because they're all related. They're both related. So, three things in psychology are to look in, to look out, and then to dive in. So, look out. Or, I'm sorry. Look out! Look in. Be familiar with yourself. Know yourself. Don't just allow yourself to go out and be this emotionally driven human being who just says whatever they want to say. They don't care how upset people get. And trust me, I don't have a filter. So I've said some things in the past that I shouldn't have said. So I'm not saying, oh, I know this. Like, I've learned this, but I've learned a lot of it by trial and error. A lot of trial and a lot of error. So we're talking about psychology. You want to be able to look at yourself and study what your temperament is, what your trigger points are, and then how you can control them, but not just suppress them. Like, oh, I'm so angry, but I'm just going to suppress it, because you're going to become more angry. You want to deal with those things. Throughout your life, you want to deal with them. And we all have to go through that our entire lives. And trust me, I just turned 71 2 days ago. I don't have it all figured out yet. I'm doing these videos to maybe help you figure it out, because you're not going to get a chance at some point in time to come to me and go, hey, Grandpa, I'm struggling with this. What do you think I should do? So you put one of these videos on and try to figure out what you should do. So you want to be familiar with yourself. And then you want to look outside of yourself and be familiar with psychological ideas. We're not talking about your relationship with other people. We're talking about your relationship with yourself. So you want to study psychology. And I've studied it to a certain extent. I love Jung, and I like Freud. I guess I would be a Jungian, not a Freudian, if I was a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but it doesn't matter. You have to You don't have to, but you should become familiar with some of their ideas, because they've figured out like why people do the things that they do. And that's what you want to know. When you do something that's unacceptable to society in general, or to your parents or something like that, you want to figure out, well, why did that happen? Why did I do that? So spend some time studying psychology. I do it recreationally. I'm a little bit different than a lot of people, but I find it enjoyable to figure out, like, oh wow, this is a thing. So, and then the third thing is to just dive in and try to take what you've learned about yourself by introspection, by looking in at your behavior and looking out at what psychological scholars have said causes things, and, you know, or what the things are, the definition of things, and then dive right in and just work on yourself every day. It's complex. It's very complex. That's why this is called Life is Complex. Next, I'm going to do one called Life is Simple. I'm going to tell you 3 things that are simple about life. But this is not that video. So the second thing is microbiology. We're going to talk about 3 things with microbiology. Number 1 is your gut. Number 2 is your skin. And number 3 is fermented foods. So microbiology, the body, molds, viruses, and bacteria, all these things can be good and they can be bad. You have trillions of these molds, viruses, and bacteria on your body and in your body. You're like a planet. You're not just this thing that exists in the ether. You have all these minuscule, you're like a world. You're a whole world. You know, and in the world that we live in, and you're just like a planet with this microbiological system that lives outside of you and inside of you. So just like the planet that we live on, there's some good people and some bad people. There's some really good people and there's some really, really bad people. So you have to figure out the good, the bad. When you get sick, sometimes they'll go, okay, well, we're going to give you penicillin, an antibiotic. And it kills the germs that are causing you to be sick. But then it kills all kinds of other bacteria too. And it leaves a void in your system, and bad things come in to take over that void. So, you know, but for the most part, the billions of people in the world, most of them are not really good or really bad. They're just people going about life, doing their job every day. So you want to maintain that balance. You want to get rid of the really bad. You want to introduce the really good. But for the most part, you want to maintain a body on your skin and inside your alimentary canal, your gut, as they say, that works, that keeps you healthy. It's a very important part of keeping you healthy. Exercise is an amazing thing. It's kept me functioning in so many different ways. But it's nothing if my body itself is sick because it lacks nutrients, because it lacks certain parts of the what's called the microbiota, the microbiome. And so you have to figure that out. I read a book about gut health. And I thought, oh, I'm going to know everything that's in this book, because I've studied all this kind of stuff about fermentation, and it's going to say, oh, you need to have all kinds of fermented foods, and then you're going to be fine. Well, no, it didn't say that. It said fermented foods are very good, but it also said that you want to eat a lot of fiber, and I was not eating a lot of fiber. So I increased my fiber, and it made me healthier. It also said that individuals need different microbiota, like the series of these microbes, that what is going to make me 100% healthy isn't going to make you 100% healthy. This is complex because you have to work on that. You're going to have to introduce things into your diet, into your skincare. I read another book by this doctor, a medical doctor, who didn't shower for a couple years. And I don't know how he stopped from stinking. I forget that part of the book. But his skin was healthier because he did that. I'm not saying you should do that. I haven't done that. Your grandmother would not allow me to do that. So you want to constantly be trying to improve your gut health, your skin health. And by that, I'm not talking about like putting a bunch of crap on your skin. You know, I don't usually wear sunscreen when I go outside, and I do have some things on the top of my head that they have to freeze, and sometimes they cut them. I've had things cut out of my neck one time, but I don't think that I would have been much better off if I used sunscreen. Listen to your parents. If you're a kid and they tell you to wear sunscreen, wear it. I'm not telling you to go against their will. But you have to make these decisions. When you become an adult, you have to decide how to take care of this part of your body. And then, oh, before I move on, fermented foods, pickles, although I know you love pickles, sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, kombucha, the list goes on and on and on. Even coffee is fermented. Sourdough bread is fermented, and I love it, but when you bake it, it bakes all the goodness out of it, we'll say. You have to bake it. You can't just eat it raw. But it does take most of the nourishment out of it. That kind of, that comes from the fact that sourdough is fermented. But all that tempeh, get involved with fermented foods. I ferment my own foods. I have several jars in the refrigerator out in the garage. I just started something called a friendship fruit jar, which has fermented fruit in it, which tastes like it's alcoholic, but I don't think it's alcoholic. I think it's more like vinegary than alcoholic. And vinegar is spoiled alcohol. So, but vinegar's good. Vinegar's good. It's a good fermented food. It's an aerobic food as opposed to kimchi or sauerkraut, which are anaerobic. Aerobic means that air gets into it, and anaerobic means that you don't want to let air into it. That if you let air into it, it spoils it. It makes it into vinegar. But Vinegar is good for you. These are complex things. I'm not going to spend 3 hours. You know, I could do probably a 5-hour video on each one of these points, but I'm not going to do that. You need to work this out. It's why it's complex. I can't just say, hey, do this, and everything's going to be fine. So the first thing, the third thing that I want to talk about is your no, wait a minute. This is the second thing. Is your relationship with other humans. The first thing that you want to do, just like with psychology, is look inward. Introspection. I talk about things like the fundamental attribution error and cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias. And I'm not going to go into each of those things because I've done it in other videos. And you want to go to those videos. Trying to remember what headings they're under, but I'll link them. They're it'll come to me as we're going along. So you want to make sure, like confirmation bias is when you want to believe what you believe. Like you get up in the morning and you say, you know, whatever, the death penalty is good. And then there's an article that you read on the internet about the death penalty. No matter what that article says, you're going to think that article is saying, yeah, the death penalty is good, or you're going to think this person's full of crap. The death penalty is good. They don't know what they're talking about. Because we don't want to learn, we want to be right. And that's not cool. That's not cool. That's going to stop you from attaining the highest level of friendships, you know, loving relationships, family relationships. If you just want to be right, well, that sucks. And cognitive dissonance is when you say, oh, well, good people do this, but I don't do that. But I'm good, so that must be wrong. Example is, good people don't tell lies. I tell lies. I'm a good person, so it must be okay to lie sometimes. That's cognitive dissonance. And maybe it is good to lie sometimes. I'm not making that point. I'm just giving you an example of cognitive dissonance where it's like, I'm a good person, good people do this, I don't do that. But it's okay because that's the problem. I'm not the problem. See, we don't think we're the problem. And you need to be introspective. You need to think about these things. Probably every day. It's great to journal. Journal about arguments you've had with people. Journal about positions that you've taken and then what you found. And you know, if you believe the right thing, it's going to win out. It's definitely going to win out. No matter what it comes up against, because it's the truth. If what you believe is the truth, then it doesn't matter what any argument is. It's still going to be the truth, and it should win. If all the other arguments are false, it'll win. The second thing is manners. All three of you have parents who have excellent manners. and your parents have instilled manners in you. Olive, at 1 year old, they're still instilling in you, like, don't do that. That's not nice to do that to somebody. As you get older, you get to Arlo's age, then that's deeper. You know, you're talking about when you're playing with other kids and how to get along and how to get along with adults. And you want to take what your parents are teaching you and learn it. Hold it to your heart and develop good manners. So you do those two things. If you look inside yourself and try to rid yourself of things that corrupt your thinking, and you behave well in public. And I'm talking about even you, Frank, at your age, 23, you still should behave well in public. You still should have manners. You do those two things, you'll go far in life. The third thing that I want to talk about is your relationship with other humans, is politics. It's early August 2024, November 5th, 2024. We're going to have a presidential election. That's all you hear about. I have very, very opinionated opinions about what should happen, who people should vote for, and all that kind of stuff. My opinions are no less opinionated than people that you see on the internet screaming about, like, oh, well, if this guy gets elected, it's the end of the world. If this guy gets elected, we're going to have World War III. If this guy gets elected, maybe all that stuff will happen. Maybe one of your lunatic friends who knows everything and should be the president, because it's like all the president has to do is everything I say and we'll be fine. Maybe they're right, but probably not. So in dealing with others, stay away from politics. People are going to believe what they believe, and they'll hate you for not believing what they believe. I have a friend who I used to work with at the IRS. We're friends on Facebook, and I've not seen her in probably 20 years. A nice woman, but she said, if you're not voting for the person that I'm voting for, you might as well unfriend me now. That's pretty harsh, right? So I can't be a good person if I don't agree with you politically. And it's been like this. People say, oh, it's bad now, but it used to be good. No, it sucked back then, and it sucks now. It's going to suck in the future. Just have your opinion. Figure out who you think is the best candidate to vote for, and vote for them. And just when people start to talk about politics, say, you know, I try not to talk about politics because I've seen so many relationships destroyed because people disagree over politics, and I hope you'll respect that. And if they don't respect that, no matter, they might agree with what you agree with, but if they won't respect you, they don't deserve your friendship, really. They really don't. I didn't unfriend this woman because she is voting for somebody different than I'm voting for. But, you know, well, and part of that is because I really don't discuss politics, or try not to. Yeah, I try not to. Sometimes I do, but I'm an old man. But I try. And then the third thing I want to talk about is your relationship with the universe. So in all things in life, you want to seek out the truth. You want to seek out the truth about you, your relationship with yourself, you know, what's best for you. You want to seek out the truth in your relationship with others, because you don't want relationships built on falsehoods. You want them built on the truth. When you marry somebody, you want it to be an honest relationship filled with love and filled with support and filled with the truth. When you raise kids, you want to raise them to seek the truth. Not to believe what you believe, but to go out on a vision quest in search of the truth. You want that. Your relationship with the universe is the same way. Like right now, if I say to you, what's going to happen to you if you die? You just up and die right now. What's going to happen to you? You can say what you think, but you don't really know. So you have to seek that. I believe that Jesus Christ is God. And the reason that I believe that is because he spoke to me one time, and I did a video on that. But this is something that you can do to make it real simple. Let's just say you don't know if there's a God. That's what I was like. I didn't know if there was one. I was an agnostic. I used to tell people, like, how could you possibly know if there's a God? That made perfect sense to me. And then he talked to me. Well, invite him to talk to you. Say, God. And you don't have to say Jesus or anything like that. Say, God, if you're real, please reveal yourself to me in a way that I'll understand who you are. So, in essence, say a prayer. You're saying it kind of to the universe. But this is a big, scary place. And the universe is eternal. And we're just on this little tiny planet, and we're these little tiny things. We're like the things inside of us and on our skin, the microbes. So ask. So how do you make all this stuff simpler? Well, it's like that old saw. How do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. So you're young. All three of you are young. Frank, maybe you don't feel like you're young anymore, but trust me. I'm looking back from 71. I remember what it was like to be 23. You're young. Take the first bite today. And then keep learning. Keep learning about yourself. Keep learning about how to relate to other people. It's more psychology. And then keep learning about where you fit in with the universe. And that'll simplify it. Because I made this and called it Life is Complex, 3 things that can become overwhelming. And I use the word overwhelming because I have been overwhelmed by these things. But I'm not now. And it's not because I'm old. It's because I lived this, what I'm telling you. So, anyway, peace out.